So, welcome back to part 2 of chapter 8. I'm going to continue to talk about channel strategy and some of the things that you need to think about when planning a channel strategy. So we have to think about stuff internally, so our strategic concerns, and then externally we have to think about what kinds of things we need to do for our customers in terms of getting product to them. So it makes sense. We've got to look at what we're trying to achieve, what our goals and objectives are, what we're good at. So let's say we're good at producing things, but we're not so good at warehousing things. Maybe we need to use a wholesaler to provide warehousing for us, or we're good at producing, but we're not necessarily good at person-to-person selling, or all sorts of different possibilities. What's our marketing mix look like? What do our 4 Ps look like? And this place piece of the Ps may be something that we have to figure out what we're going to do. And then finally, how much control do we need within our internal considerations? Because as soon as we hire intermediaries, we lose some control about how our product is presented to the ultimate consumer. So control can be a very important thing to understand. Is our product, is it very important for us to control the message about our product, because intermediaries are independent. They can transmit the message as they see it. We can influence that transmittal of message, but we can't control it. And then on the external side, obviously who's our target market, who are our target customers, what's the environment look like? Is it hard for us to deliver product, or is it easy for us to deliver products? Are our products heavy or light, big or small, expensive or cheap? All of those kinds of environmental factors. So what's the environment outside? What are our competitors doing? Are competitors using intermediaries or not? Maybe we want to do the same things that our competitors are doing, or if we're really niche marketers, maybe we want to do something really different from our competitors. And then finally, are there available intermediaries? Sometimes there aren't. The infrastructure isn't there, and we have to create it ourselves. So what's out there and available? So let's talk about channel selections. Do I need brokers or agents? First of all, what do? They facilitate sales. They have connections in the industry. So if I'm selling, I'll go back to my own background. If I want to sell mountaineering clothing to retailers, do I want to do that myself, or do I want to employ brokers or agents who already have connections with all of the retailers of mountaineering clothing? So there may be agents or brokers out there, sales agents, independent sales agents is sort of the total name, and they work on commission, and maybe they represent somebody who's making camp stoves, and they make somebody who's making tents, and they represent somebody else who's making backpacks, and I want them to represent my product, which is clothing. So now they already have a reason and a network of contacts in the industry selling these other products, and I'm piggybacking on that network that they already have. So they already have an entree to the next level of intermediaries, the retailers who I'm trying to sell. So is it better for me to use them, or is it better for me to hire my own salespeople that work directly for me and just sell my product? You have to make that decision. The reason for using agents is they're good at what they do. They facilitate sales. They represent multiple products generally, so that their overhead, the cost of them, is spread. So they can, whereas a direct salesperson for just my product might not sell enough to support themselves, or for me to support them. But if they're selling tents and backpacks and camping stoves as well as my clothing, those 4 things together may represent enough volume to support a sales agent. So that's the reason that sales agents exist. The sales agents exist to sell directly from the producer to a wholesaler. They also exist to sell from a producer to a retailer, and they also exist to sell directly to the end user. And many business-to-business channels use sales agents to sell direct. So there is no wholesaler or retailer, there's just a sales agent. So industrial products are often sold that way. So industrial sales agents represent a variety of products for a certain industry, and they are able to go and call on people in that industry, sell into that industry with a briefcase full of different products that industry might use. So they sell directly to the consumer in that case, the consumer being a business. So that's what brokers and agents do. Wholesalers do something different. They actually own the product. So they take possession of the product, they buy it, and then they resell it. Where you want your wholesalers to be depends on transportation costs to a great extent, and also the requirement for fast delivery. So if you have a product that's heavy or difficult to transport, it needs to be relatively close to your customer base. You can't have it be shipping it from California to Maine. You have to be shipping it shorter distances. So you would set up your wholesale channels regionally so that they had product available regionally when it needed to be shipped regionally. Also, if you need to deliver fast, you may have to set up your distribution or your wholesale channel members close enough to your market so that they can do same day or next day delivery if that's a requirement. How many wholesalers I need depends on how many retailers I have and what those wholesalers are required to do. So maybe I can work with just a single wholesaler for a region or even nationally, or maybe I need lots of them because they don't have as much reach or because they are providing lots of localized services that need to be addressed. And sometimes I may have wholesalers to reach different channels, retail channels. So if I'm selling to convenience stores and I'm selling to grocery stores, I may have two different wholesale channels, one of which services grocery stores and one of which services convenience stores. Retail selection, probably the most important part of your channel decision because it's what the consumer sees. So what do I need to do when I choose my retail channels? Am I covering my target market? So am I getting my product where it's convenient and makes sense for my target market to buy it? And remember, consumers shop in different kinds of outlets, some of which may be because of their demographic design. So more sophisticated consumers may shop in specialty stores, whereas less sophisticated consumers may shop in big box stores. If you're selling a sophisticated product, maybe you have to be in the sophisticated stores. If your product is less sophisticated, maybe you have to be in the other stores. So you got to figure out what your target market is and then make sure you have coverage there. The case that you're working on right now has some of those decision markers in it. Where do I sell my product? Is the channel selection that the company is looking at, is it the right channel selection for the kind of product that they're planning on selling? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. What kind of requirements does the buyer have? So the consumer has what kind of requirements? Do they need installation? So if I'm selling home appliances, I need somebody who can deliver the product and maybe install it, maybe take away the old one. Mattresses would be the same. I've got to have somebody who can deliver the mattress and then take away the old mattress because it's difficult for consumers to do that themselves. What other kinds of buyer requirements are? Service requirements, knowledge requirements, installation requirements. If you're selling skis, you have to have somebody who can install bindings and test the bindings and make sure that they're safe. So you need that service requirement. And then finally, is it the profitability? And this is important in all channel decisions. Will my product be profitable for my channels? Because channel members get to choose whether they want to carry your product. They don't have to. They're going to carry a product because it's profitable for them. So you have to have room in your product margins so that your channel members can make money. And that's it. That's key to the decision to carry your product. And if the channel members choose not to carry your product, then they don't. So you don't have distribution through your chosen channel members. 3 different kinds of distribution in the retail markets. We have intensive distribution, which means I want to be everywhere I can possibly be. So soft drinks have intensive distribution, Pepsi, Coke, and so forth. They are available in all retail outlets. They're available in convenience stores. They're available in grocery stores. They're available in big box stores. They're available at wholesale stores like Sam's or Costco or things like that. They're also available in vending machines. So their availability is intensive. It's as many places as possible. They want their consumer to be able to get a soda when they want it, not have to travel for it. So they need it in as many places as possible. And then some consumers want to buy in quantity, so they want that. So they're doing everything. They're everywhere. There is no selectivity in their distribution plan. They want intensive distribution. Selective distribution, companies that choose to have a few retail outlets for each market area. They don't want that intensive distribution. They want a higher level of service, and they want more exclusivity, not totally exclusive, but more exclusivity. So selective distribution would be, say, I don't know, Chevrolet or Ford. They have selective distribution. There are lots of Ford dealers and lots of Chevy dealers, but they're not everywhere. So you're probably somewhere 15 miles away from a Ford dealer, no matter where you live, maybe 20 miles away in rural Maine here. But you're relatively close to a dealer. So there's selective, but there's a number of outlets. Exclusive distribution, one retail outlet or one chain for each market. How you define market is obviously up to you. And there may even be some kind of an exclusive distribution agreement. So exclusive distribution says you're the only person that can sell this product in this geographic area. When I set up distribution for one of the products that I imported, I set up an exclusive distribution model. So I had exclusivity for each retailer that decided to carry the product had exclusivity in their marketplace. So that meant that a retailer in Montana had the entire state as their exclusive market. So they had the whole state of Montana. That's a lot of territory. Whereas a retailer in New York City had a 20-block area. They're both exclusive. Nobody else can sell this product on the Upper East Side of New York, or nobody else can sell this product in Montana. So it had to do with my definition of exclusivity in a market was defined differently in different places. So that's important. Franchising is a type of exclusive distribution. We see this around us. So if I have the franchise for McDonald's for a certain area, nobody else can put a McDonald's in that area. So I've signed an agreement, and McDonald's has signed the agreement that says I have the exclusive right to use the McDonald's brand name and have a McDonald's restaurant in a defined area. And no one else can have a McDonald's in that area. So that's an exclusivity, and that's defined by a franchising agreement, which I paid for, probably. So I paid for my franchise, and that gave me exclusivity. So that's another kind of exclusive marketing distribution. So why do we choose intensive? We've sort of already talked about it. Frequent purchasing and little thought in the purchase decision. So intensive, it needs to be easy to get to. I see the soda, I buy the soda. Selective distribution, when the product requires personal selling at the point of purchase, I may need expertise, so I want to restrict the distribution. I want to maintain the brand image or the channel profitability. So as soon as I sell it in more places, the profitability generally goes down because the various distribution channels compete with each other. Maybe I want price to stay up and I want channels to stay profitable. So having fewer people to sell it means that they are able to sell at a higher price. And maybe my target market expects to find my product in an exclusive location. So you think about luxury goods like watches or jewelry or high-end audio speakers or something. You don't expect to find them in Walmart or Best Buy. You expect to find them in a more exclusive distribution channel. So that's that's why we would choose various distribution channels. So the kinds of things that buyers are looking for, so when I'm choosing a retail channel, I want to make sure that my target market gets what they need. Is information important to them? That's become a less important part of retail channel selection recently because the information is often available online about products, so consumers don't see the necessity of having the information come from the retail channel. So that's becoming a less important thing, but it's still important. Does the consumer expect to see variety? Do they expect to be able to buy my product and two other similar brands and see them together so they can compare? So that do they expect variety, or are they happy with just seeing my product all by itself? So you've probably all know about, say, Nike brand stores. When you go to a Nike brand store and all you see is Nike. You can't compare it to Adidas or New Balance or the other brands, but if you go to a Foot Locker store, you can see Nike and you can see New Balance and you can see Adidas. Those are two different shopping experiences, and those two experiences may or may not be important for your product. You may not think that they're important and therefore you don't worry about it, or you may think the consumer really wants that comparison ability. Convenience. Is it important to the consumer that your product is available conveniently? Generally it is, but for certain very infrequent type purchases it may not be. So you'll notice that Mercedes-Benz has many fewer dealerships than Ford or Chevy. Why is that? Well, they're being somewhat more restrictive of their number of dealers. That's improving the profitability of the dealers they had because there's less competition. It's also somewhat less convenient for the consumer, but maybe their dealers, because they're more profitable, offer more services and so forth. So they're more attractive to the target market that they're chasing, their target market. And then finally, services. What kind of services do I need? Do I need services like car dealers provide, like maintenance services? Or do I need installation services like people that are selling appliances need, or mattresses, that kind of thing? So what kind of services do my outlets, my distribution channels need to provide? So those are kind of some things to think about. So information, we'll just quickly go through these things. It's important when buyers don't know much about things or desire specific data. Buyer requirement satisfaction, convenience, proximity, driving time, and for internet purchases, a lot of people don't think about this, but websites that are easy to locate and navigate are a convenience factor. If it's easy to buy, I'm more likely to buy. So convenience happens even on your electronic purchases, and as does obviously information. But for convenience, is really important to have a well-designed website for purchasing. Numerous competing and complementary brands, important. For variety, and then services, we've talked about that. So, profitability within the channels. We need the whole channel to be profitable. However many levels of channels we have. All the channel members have to be profitable or we won't succeed. So profitability is revenue minus costs. And we have to think about the whole channel. So if we've got a broker, a wholesaler, and a retailer, all three pieces of that channel, along with the producer, all have to be profitable. And you got to pay for that distribution, advertising, and selling expenses. And sometimes you're going to share them within the channel. Some of the costs may be shared. So another possible channel choice is direct distribution. And we can see examples of direct distribution all around us. So producers have their own sales force or their own distribution outlets, and they sell directly to the ultimate consumer. That's a direct distribution model. The other direct distribution model that we're pretty familiar with is the producer has their own website and they sell directly to the consumer with their own website. So that's a direct distribution model. Who do you know that has direct distribution models? Well, one of the most successful new companies in the clothing business is a company called Lululemon. And I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Lulu, but Lulu is not a very old company, maybe 10 years old, was one of the first producers of yoga gear for the yoga craze that started in the mid-2000s. And they set up a model that's quite unique, or it was at the time. It's not so unique anymore, where they both produced the clothes, designed and produced the clothing, but then sold it only through their own retail stores or on their own website. So they had no retailers selling their product. Everything was sold through their own stores. So they put up stores, and they now have hundreds of them all worldwide, maybe thousands, I don't know. And their whole model is you buy Lulu at a Lulu store or you buy Lulu on your own website. They control everything, including price, promotion, and presentation, and service, and everything is controlled, and they have an incredibly successful business model. Their founder is a billionaire, done really well selling yoga tights. So they have a good product, but they have a unique distribution model. So rather than selling it to department stores or clothing stores or Amazon or whatever, they're selling everything direct through their own channels. And that's worked well for them. But that means they have to do all this themselves. So a huge investment in retail stores and so forth. So why would a company choose to do direct distribution? Well, if you can identify your buyers easily, so you don't have to search for your buyers, that's easy. Makes it easier to go direct. If personal selling is a big part of your communication program, that may make direct distribution easier. So I need to be face-to-face with people to sell my product. Then going through a channel is hard. So going direct may be easier. The flip side of that is I have a complete package of offerings. Maybe I don't have to go through channels. Maybe I don't have to be sold next to other products like kind I can sell myself exclusively. So that's kind of what Lulu did. They had a complete package of product, and they were able to have a store with only their product in it, and yet it was a good shopping experience for the retail consumer because they could get all of their Lulu stuff, and it all worked together, and it color coordinated and whatever else it did. So there was a complete package, and I have the resources to reach my target markets. Now it's expensive to do that direct selling because I have to do everything. I have to build my retail stores. I have to own the inventory. I have to train the sales staff. I have to employ the sales staff. I have to do all that stuff that would be done by intermediaries. So I have a much bigger management challenge and a much bigger resource challenge. So that's a downside, or it makes it difficult. And sometimes there just aren't the right intermediaries available. So I can't use intermediaries because there's no network of intermediaries for me to use. So I have to establish my own channels, my direct channels. Or maybe the intermediaries that are there don't have what I want. They don't offer the same service things that I think my customers need. or my product is so technically sophisticated, non-standardized, or expensive that I can't find intermediaries who will treat it well. Very interesting direct distribution thing to think about is Tesla. The car industry has used intermediaries to sell their product for a long time, and there are actually laws that require, in some states, that require car companies to use dealers and not sell direct. Those laws were put in place by the dealer networks to prevent the big three, General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, from buying big dealers and selling direct within certain states. Tesla looked at this market and said, we want to sell direct. We want to have our own stores. So Tesla has established Tesla stores, and they're in strange places like shopping malls and retail locations. And they sell Teslas in those locations. So they don't have a dealer network. Well, that's kind of an interesting model. It's an extremely interesting model and maybe a difficult model for somebody like Tesla who doesn't have unlimited resources. They're struggling to continue to gain enough investment dollars to grow. But building a distribution channel is really expensive. So they're putting dollars into a distribution channel where they could have their opportunity. Those intermediaries do exist. The big retail dealer networks sell lots of different brands, and they certainly would have been pretty successful, I think, in finding car dealers who wanted to sell Tesla. So they've chosen a different model. They've chosen to go direct. And they've also chosen, and this is the other thing, is that they don't have a service network either. So they have to create their own service network to fix broken Teslas. So whereas the service network would have existed if they had chosen to go through dealers. Now, they don't have to pay the dealers either, so they have the margin that they would have paid the dealers to use to create this other thing, but can they do that successfully, and is that a good investment of their core competencies? Their core competencies is building electric cars that perform well and last a long time and go far and all of that. Why take more resources and put them into a distribution network when the distribution network already exists and I can just hire the distribution network? So just strategy decisions. Tesla made a strategic decision to create their own dealer network. Certainly a big decision, and maybe one that will work incredibly well, or maybe one that won't. I'm not sure. So if I want to be really exclusive, I may also choose direct distribution. That's part of what Tesla is doing. And sometimes I may use direct distribution as a marketing tool to say, well, you're going to get a better deal because you're buying direct. There's no middleman here. You've probably heard ads at some point in time of people advertising that they're a direct option. There's no middleman, so we sell cheaper. So that's a marketing tool. I'm going to sell cheaper because I don't have any middlemen. Yeah, maybe I can, maybe I can't. I have to do everything the middleman was going to do for what the margin they took, so who knows. And maybe I'm trying to set myself apart from all of the other people in my industry, which is also kind of what Tesla's doing, to differentiate what I'm doing from what the rest of the world does to make me special. And finally, and I've said this several times, but I'm going to say it again, if you decide to cut out a channel, either one or all of your channels, you have to take all the functions that they perform, and you have to do them. So when Tesla doesn't use car dealers, they have to own the inventory that's at the retail stores, so that's a cost. They have to employ and train the sales force that's in their retail stores. They have to rent the space that their retail stores are in, and they probably have to deal with financing issues as well, so dollar investment issues. So that all of that stuff that the car dealer deals with, all of a sudden they have to deal with it. So that's a big thing. And does what I pay the car dealer in terms of margin is that large enough for me to absorb all those functions? And that's one of the questions that you have to answer. So that finishes Chapter 8, Part 2. And there'll be some questions, and then we'll finish up Chapter 8 after you answer those questions with Part 3. Thank you.